As I always welcome people to my program, I start by saying good morning. And one will wonder, good morning, when even it is evening or whatever time it is still good morning in God's neighborhood. I welcome you to Conscious Humanity into Ethereum Mission, and as already shared with you, I shall hope that technology will be our friend and everything will go on smoothly despite any bandwidth issues. I want to specially give thanks to Professor Emmanuel Latte, the High Tower Fund of Emory College of Arts and Sciences, and all of the moderators who have agreed to participate with me in this program. Thank you very much. The topic that I'm going to address is conscious spirituality, indigenous African integrative practices of health, sociality, and education. This is simply telling us to study how to live holistically, basically holistic living. In what way do we live holistically as beings who are constituted of spirit, mind, and body? Conscious spirituality, or the spirituality of nature, as I call it, is the way I believe the world must go. To live and not know who and what you are is a tragedy. And to not know your purpose in life is a disaster. Conscious spirituality is simply living in harmony with nature, observing how life works, so you know how your life works. You will know how your life works when you know the life you have come from. Contrary to popular thinking and religiosity that we have been created and put into this world, the truth is that we have actually been, we have actually emerged from life and not been born into life. It seems there's some little technical issue, and I trust we'll resolve it as we go along. So let me pause briefly as my technical team seek to resolve it. So I trust my great listeners can hear me now much, much better. At the heart of religion is the topic or the question of God. I once had a conversation with a friend who said he is an atheist. He doesn't believe in the existence of God. I agreed with him. But he asked the question, why can't we just love one another? Just be sweet and nice to one another. I asked him to pause, and I asked him, have you felt love before? Yes, he asked. I say, the love you are feeling and the love I feel and the collective love that humanity feels is what is sometimes termed God. So God is not a person. God is the very love that you are feeling. I wonder how humanity got it so wrong to create a God outside of nature to worship. Well, I believe religion and spirituality might have started as a drive of humanity to understand themselves, the mystery of life, so that they can participate in life more effectively. When you ask for the definition of the word God, it varies from religion to religion. One central message, however, is it says, God is the creator of heaven and of the earth. We hear this in Islam, in Christianity. However, each of these religions, for example, have different idea or concept what God is. To most people, God is this Santa Claus, boogeyman, sky presence, often depicted as a male. And he showers blessings on people or curses on people. And in fact, if you don't do his will, he has a place called hell where he will roast you eternally. Though the same religions will tell us that he is very gentle, generous, forgiving, and loving, yet he has prepared hell, and everybody is born pre-doomed to go to hell unless you do something to attain salvation. This will tell you that something is basically wrong. About 400,000 children are born every day to parents outside of religion, and are they all pre-doomed to this so-called hell? When I go through all my life finding definition for God, the African definition comes much closer to me. In our tradition, it teaches that whatever humanity did not create but we depend on is God. We did not create the air, the sun, the water, or the earth. Hence, in African theology, there is no God and something. Everything is an expression of God. Everything is an expression of God, therefore means the air I'm breathing is an extension or expression of God. So is the fire, the water, and the earth. And in fact, we have sacred days to go to the land and bless the land, to bless the river, and so on. Because in African theology, the self is made part of life. When I speak of nature, I'm not speaking of the shrubs or plant life or rivers and waters. When I speak of nature, I'm speaking of where you are expanding to the ever infinite universe of galaxies. Nature is life, and this is the life that we choose to call God. So on the earth here, according to African theology, God is the air, the fire, the water, and the earth that you walk on. When you go through almost all religions, they all agree that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. The only way you can accept God to be omnipresent is to know God as nature, because only nature is everywhere present. Only nature is all-powerful. I've heard two superpower head of states boasting of their military power, their destructive power as superpower. But when we are now struck with COVID, we don't see their military might in any way overcoming COVID. Nations now must come together to express their power. So omnipresence will only be God when it is nature. So is omnipotence, and so is omniscience. It is important that we awaken to the universality of God and have clear respect for life. Because the moment we see God or feel God as life, and we see the wholeness of life as our extension, everything in life changes. Your consciousness changes. Today, with advancement of religion, many traditions, including African traditions, have been washed out by Western systems. We need to do something to protect the culture of Africa. You know, a culture defines people. When you destroy the culture of a people, you have destroyed their sense of identity, and that destroys their sense of creativity. If Africa needs anything, it is not us to be given AIDS, but like we protect every endangered species, we need to protect the cultural heritage of a people. And if there should be any focus on Africa, it must go that way. Life is about diversity. And it is in diversity that we experience beauty. If all cultures were just one culture, we will lose touch with diversity. And as such, we will lose touch with the divine beauty that we are supposed to express and experience. Western civilization mainly focuses on material civilization. When it comes to Africa, we seek nature-based civilization, where we are part of nature, therefore we respect nature. When it comes to relationship, in fact, if you talk about holistic living, it will involve your health, your social relationship, your spirituality. And that is what we are discussing. So when it comes to relationship, the African believes that this one life that we choose to call God is expressed as everything. And it's an eternal continuum. It never starts, it never ends. So kinship to the African goes all the way back to our ancestors. And often when there's any issue in the community, our ancestors are the first point of call. We pray, inviting your roots. You know what? The flower that does not honor or respect its roots dies. And the branch that disconnects from the tree becomes firewood. So everybody needs a foundation with your source. Your mother, your father, spoken or unspoken, they have some cherished prayer for you. And their parents have some cherished prayer for them. This is why sometimes you can evoke their powers to express through you from the land beyond, from the ocean depths and cosmic heights, beings of light whose eyes revolve on their axis. Our fathers and our mothers, your fathers and mothers, and their fathers and their mothers to the 1,000 generations before now. Your limitless light and cosmic victory now fulfill itself through us. Our fathers and our mothers, the birds that left their nest to yonder land have found their ways back to their nest in safety. So let us find our way back to your bosom. Then in oneness, our voice is your voice and your voice is our voice. With such a prayer, the practitioner has linked himself or herself to her roots. It goes much deeper, and probably that may be a whole topic for me to give you some of these evocations. From the ancestors, we'll call upon the demigods. That includes the very elements. African gods have been demonized as evil. But who and what are demigods? The demigods, as in other religions, are called angels. Same thing. The word angel, coming from the Greek angelos, means messenger, and speaks of the divine idea of God expressed, the divine idea of life. As I've explained in African theology, there's no God in life. Life is God, God is life. Life comes from life, and your life coming from life, you are an extension of life. So the demigods are evoked, and the great elemental deities of fire, water, earth, and air are summoned. So in almost all African rites, these practices will be found. So our kinship starts from our ancestors. It goes all the way to the elements for you to find oneness of life. So that if there is even anybody having some condition of disease, for example, the first call is spiritual. The African believes that the primary cause of diseases is spiritual. And by spiritual, I mean wrong thinking, wrong feeling, and not connected to your ancestry and to your purpose, your spiritual purpose. So there will always be some divination or prayers to intuit the spiritual cause for the problem. We know, for example, and our elders will teach, that when you speak from the place of anger against a brother, you have cursed the brother. And that could be the cause of disease in your life. When you are aided to undo the curse, you, the person, will realize that you no more have to speak from the place of anger against anyone. Forgiveness here is exercised, and you know that you must not allow negative thoughts or feeling to come from your mouth against another person. This is wonderful. This is holistic living. So disease is even a call for us to return home to our source. Then also, among the healing practices will be the need for you to find your purpose. So the practitioner will tell you, your purpose is to bring joy to children in your community. You've deviated from doing this, and that's why you're suffering this disease. When the patient is healed, the children in the community will now have a great support. Of course, disease does not come only from this. Sometimes it's wrong diets that builds mucus in you. Most diseases are described as bad mucus. In the tree, they say what? Amamai. You're suffering from some amamai, you are having bad mucus. In such a case, the practitioner may resort to preparing some herbs for you. Basically, all I'm sharing is that disease is addressed from the place of spirit, mind, and body. Because the practitioner knows that the human being is not a sculpture, a walking machine. You are a being constituted of spirit, mind, body, and you must therefore be treated on the same line. Now, studying from nature and being in alignment with nature, the African, in his or her practice, gives great attention to words of power. Words of power are derived from you observing the spiritual laws of nature. Aligning yourself with the spiritual laws of nature, you come to a statement that harmonizes with these macro laws. Let me give you a clear example. If you observe life, animals would eat of the fruit of the tree. To them, they've gotten bumper harvest. And through their droppings, they'll be planting more of that tree. Ruminants will also probably chew the grass, and then in their droppings, they manure the ground for greener grasses. Insects will suck the nectar from the flowers, and in the process, they are pollinating the plant. What do you see? There is a spiritual law here that life supports and promotes itself. Because to the animals, they are being supported by the plants, and to life, the animals are manufacturing plants or fertilizing plants, or they are farmers to plant more of that tree through their droppings. So every part of life is complementing the other and supporting one another. The practitioner will create word of power that life supports and promotes itself. Yes, is it true? Now you can see it. There's clear evidence of this. Life supports and promotes itself. For a year, this practitioner will wake up every morning, bless the ground, confirming and affirming this, that life supports and promotes itself. Will now put himself in the picture. Because he's part of life, life supports and promotes itself as me. Life supports and promotes itself as me. For maybe an hour or two, he may be chanting this. If life supports and promotes itself as you, then life supports and promotes its health as you, its wisdom as you, its joy as you. That statement now becomes words of power. So thus consecrated and used over time, it receives and attains spiritual power. And when used over people, the person gets beneficial effect. So he can use it for you and say, life supports and promotes your marriage. Life supports and promotes the marriage of Josephine and Roland. Life supports and promotes the marriage of Josephine and Roland. And as this is cited several times, it's creating a spiritual energy. Those words of power go forth as living entities and they work. That's why you have a lot of great magic in African works. And these words of power may also be used to undo curses in cases where somebody has cursed a brother or a sister. So in healing also, we will need to reconnect with ancestors. So sometimes your ancestors may be evoked so that you gain foundation with your ancestors. This is where sometimes they will tell you to walk barefooted for some days so that you are connected with the earth. Because our wisdom is that your ancestors are still part of the nature system. And by walking barefoot, direct connection, you are linking with them. When it comes to using plant medicine, practitioners don't just go to the field and plug because they know that plants are for medicine, they are for food, and they could also be just weed. So you have to go, bless the plant, and clearly state your intention, what you want that particular plant to do for you. And when that is stated, you now gather the plant, and whether it is to be cooked or to be used as a balm for the person, infinite number of uses. I recall years ago practicing herbal medicine. I was branded as occult and evil. And today, I'm happy there's so much awakening that many people are now resorting to natural medicine. That is not to say that Western medicine or allopathic medicine is not good, but we need to go nature. And using allopathic medicine probably may be a last resort. Why don't you let nature do its work through you? Now, from all that I have shared, all these have come together to build in me a desire to showcase what holistic healing could be like. So following the traditional system of treating individuals as composites of mind, spirit, feeling, and body, I, with my church, Ethereum Mission, our spiritual center, Ethereum Mission, the Center for Spiritual Empowerment, we're building this massive hospital, which is on 3 floors. The ground floor is for natural medicine, using herbal medicine, using massage, walk therapy, water therapy, solar therapy, and other natural therapies for the restoration of health, and also educating the client, or what we call the liberty, we call them liberatees. In other words, they are on the road to their freedom, to liberty. So we also give them the education so they learn how to live harmoniously with nature. So the ground floor is for natural medicine, and the middle floor is for Western or allopath medicine. Basically, this was put in there so that it can validate some of the miraculous healings that go on with natural medicine. Patients consider me a miracle man, and I always say I'm not a miracle man. Nature is its miracle. I only channel nature's wisdom. The 3rd floor is for spiritual medicine, and there, when it is completed, we're going to have 24 hours of unbroken prayer. My disciples may go on rotation, connect themselves to the universe, to nature, and tap into specific frequencies, such as the frequency I described. Life supports and promotes itself is a frequency, it's a power. It is a law. We're seeing it uniformly so in life, so you know that life works by supporting and promoting itself. Truly, life doesn't care about you. Life only cares about supporting and promoting itself. And to the degree that your life is supporting and promoting life, life supports and promotes itself through you, and you become a large, prosperous system. Because as the animals support and promote the tree supports and promotes them. In African system, we come to realize that when it comes to social living, we practice the extended family system, where it's not just mother, father, brother, sister. It goes all the way to uncles, aunties, and we have a family head who also operates even as the spiritual head of that clan or family. So during programs such as funerals or gathering, they will pour libation to pray to the ancestors, to the deities, and so on, for the promotion of the family. Everybody in the family is brother or sister. In fact, we don't even have a word for cousin in any language that I have known across West Africa. Because everybody is your sister, brother. In my language, we say nyemi or nyebi. Nyemi means my mother's child. My mother's child. In the Ghana language of Ghana, my mother's child. Or nyemi, I came from the same place with this person. Nyemling. In other words, inside my mother. So you are a person, and we all came from inside my mother. And when you go to that Kan language, it has a word, we say minwa, meaning brother, sister. Now minwa means, minwanu, I am the same as you. So it shows the deep cohesion and belief that we are just one spirit operating as different individuals. And if neighbors consider themselves your family, when you are in the village with the same person, that person is your brother, that person is your sister, especially if you were to find yourself in an area outside your village, instantly you are bonded as one family. Children, therefore, are raised by the community. We say that we have a saying that one person gives birth, but it's the community that raises that person. So children are raised by the community. And in fact, anybody in the community is to take care of your child and ensure that the child is of good moral standing and behavior at all times. So when the child is even going out, the child knows that this person out there, our next door neighbor or 2 houses, 10 houses away, is looking at me and watching over me. So you know that you have to act right. And this creates a sense of moral balance. So in our social system, there's more of cohesion with ourselves and extending our goodness to one another. When it comes to marriage as one of the social practices, it's a very serious program. Marriage is not you meeting somebody on the road, kneeling down and then proposing and then that is it. No. Marriage unites 2 families or 2 clans. It comes also with dedicated guides. It goes through the program of knocking. So the knocking is what you call engagement. All right? So knocking means this woman is for me. So if somebody else comes to say, I'm interested in the woman, the family will say, no, somebody is there already. So we have the process of the knocking, then the marriage in which you give your dowries and so on, and then the full marriage. In the Ghana tradition, we call it boyepa. In other words, you give the person a good underwear. So the person must be good right from within. And of course, in Africa, polygamy was the norm. My mother was the 3rd wife of my father. And I have so many arguments today in the world about monogamy, polygamy, which one is good. I always say that if my mother had not been the 3rd wife of my father, the world would have lost me. They wouldn't have had me. So monogamy, polygamy They all have their advantages and their disadvantages. Coming from three mothers, we so united as one family. From the background of how we see brothers as one, I see my mother and my stepmother going out together, dressed together, working together, eating together as friends. That's the way I grew up seeing them. I did not see them as rivals. So when it comes to the family system, it's a very beautiful social net in times of distress, loss, or bereavement. The aged are loved and cared for. And they also, in turn, care for the grandchildren and the community. So somebody's going out and knows that this old lady is there, you come and leave your child. So in times of loss, bereavement, or distress, you have a wonderful social net in this family system. You know, community care eliminates loneliness. Today, the world is evolving into a disease of loneliness. There's this story, I think it's 2003, Joyce Vincent died in 2003, and when the bailiffs went in to break her door, because she's not been paying rent for years, to evict her, only to realize that she might have been an asthmatic patient and had died for 2 years in her room. This may not happen in Africa, because a neighbor will come and say, I've not seen you for a week. Where have you been? So I came to just knock to see how you are doing. In the days of Theresa May of Britain, she even instituted Minister of Loneliness, and we have this also in Japan. Minister of Loneliness. This is telling you that it's a big problem. If we go with nature's spirituality and ways of living like the African, we would avoid this. It will also take care of depressive issues and other mental ailments and cares. You know, in Africa, depression and other mental ailments are very rare. And sometimes I hear children in UK say, I'm depressed. It's like as though they've rehearsed the word and they have to even say it and then act it. Subconsciously, they are internalizing it. When it comes to education, we do not have formal classroom. The indigenous African has not got formal classroom. You see, I'm speaking all this from the indigenous African, because now we become very secular in many ways, and though that has its advantages, it has also eroded a lot of the fine spirit of the African. And a theory mission, where our third objective is to restore these mystical traditions and practices of the African community for the world's consumption. So when it comes to education, it's mainly homeschooled. Your parents take care of you, and grandparents and aunties and parents, they teach you through storytelling. Morality is all taught through storytelling. And the education starts right at birth. Because right from your beginning, even the consecration of the newborn babe, the blessing of the newborn babe is so sacred that it's like the newborn babe is infused with spiritual energy to follow those guidelines. So, and when the child gets to age and wants to learn trade, usually they will learn the trade of their parents, grandparents, or experienced practitioners in the community. They go in as apprentices and then they learn. One of the powerful ways of educating the youth is called the rites of passage in Africa, and it's there in almost all African cultures. And that is to educate and initiate the individual into adulthood. Whenever I have done my workshop on success genius with the youth, and I've done the statistics, how many of you have been afraid of growing up? I see all hands going up, and some confirming that they have been suicidal because thinking of growing up is frightening. Maybe some of you have been there, wondering, how was my father able to do this? How was my mother able to provide? And can I also provide? So children or youth grow with all of these fears. And as a result, some of them become wayward in life. Now, bringing all these together, is a foundation information of Ethereum Mission, the Center for Spiritual Empowerment. And I dedicated my life to find what works. What works is for us to return to nature. I realized that everybody is crying for peace, but there's even no clear, workable definition for peace. This is what I came up with by observing nature, that peace is the identification and free expression of your innate potentialities. Peace is the identification and free expression of your innate potentialities. And with this, I set myself to lead the world to peace. We need to have vision of peace, and this is my vision. A unified world in which everyone is a catalyst that is activating and promoting the innate world in one another. A unified world in which everyone is working very hard, promoting the innate good in one another. It ties in with the definition of peace. You see, if you are able to see somebody, if you see somebody expressing his or her potential, and you are not able to express yours, you feel cheated, you feel lost, you feel hemmed in. This causes internal confusion that gives birth to external confusions, conflicts, and wars. Again, if you're able to see somebody express his or her potential, and you're not able to express yours, you feel cheated, lost. Again, if you're able to identify your potential, but you cannot freely express it, you feel hemmed in, choked, restricted, causing internal confusion, conflicts, and wars. So the root cause is within the individual. Today, we are building structures and infrastructures, and we are not building the soul. When we build the individual, he or she will build his world of peace. One of the master programs, in fact, two of them that are really brought out to bring all these together for peace is what we call Essential Life Education. A program that enables you to know how you operate, so you can easily know how others operate for cooperation. A well-integrated being results in a well-integrated world. That is what it is about. Let me give you a taste of it. For example, you are a man, woman, but everybody, we came into being by the male-female properties of our parents. So the sperm, with its psychological and spiritual properties, and the ovum, with its female psychological properties, came together, fusing as me, a man, and fusing as somebody else, a woman. So we all have male-female qualities. Then we also even have spiritual qualities. When you say I'm kind, kindness is a spiritual quality. When you say I am creative, it is a spiritual quality. You need to define your spiritual qualities, your gender qualities, and then these senses, 5 senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing. These are huge spiritual forces that rule everybody. He rules who rules himself, and not he who rules a nation. So for you to rule, you must rule yourself. And to rule yourself, you must rule yourself through your senses. It is what you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear that offends you. And you cannot rule over the senses. You can rule with them. So the program of Essential Life Education will enable you to know who you are in your gender, persona, in other words, your spiritual person, and then your senses, and that becomes the GPS that navigates you successfully in life. Another powerful work I've created is called Growing the Empowered Child. Because whenever I've used soul processing, one of my spiritual sciences, to process people, to process the pain in people, process it out, most of the pains come from their childhood. Then I thought, let me look at what is happening here in childhood. And the result is to tune me to nature's voice, to hear the unspoken language that is going on between children. And that gave birth to Growing the Empowered Child, a program in which children may be raised free from fear and anger. We don't war, it is fear that wars. What will make a nation unprovoked build weapons of mass destruction if it is not suspicion? And suspicion is a shade of fear. I've put all these together in a beautiful manual called the Peace Manual. It is free, and you'll be even download it from the website known as wealthpeaceinourlifetime.org. Wealthpeaceinourlifetime, one word.org. Again, wealthpeaceinourlifetime. So these are my peace programs that I have created to help humanity evolve their highest essence. If I will continue, we'll have to carry on for years. But I believe I may bring this to an end and then respond to your questions so that we all grow more into these subjects. Thank you so much for the soul of my soul. Thank you so much for participating with me. And we carry on. And I know the moderators are ready to carry us through.
Each of these dimensions. So there is a question here, which I think we can begin with, and it is a question actually that relates very much to the panel that we will be having tomorrow. But I think that you perhaps might want to make a few comments about this. Sydney Davis asks this question. It is this: how can Black Americans successfully address the problems that they blame on racism, structural racism, systematic racism, white privilege, and so on? Now, as I said, I think this is the question that is actually the base is going to be addressed even more fully through our conversations tomorrow at the panel. But you may want Brother Ishmael to make a few responses to this question.
So when I address this tomorrow, I want us to look at the problem from its foundation. But let me just put it this way. If it's somebody's plan to upset you so that you lose your thinking, your creativity and abilities, what must you do? Must you allow the person to succeed in upsetting you so that your abilities are reduced? Or must you, when you know it's systematic, it's structural, it's systemic, must you develop something from within that will make you so resilient like your ancestors who were transported across the ocean to the new world? If you can capture that ancestral resilience, then the solution comes from within, not from without. And I'll be addressing that in greater detail tomorrow. But I believe you can see straight away that we may be using wrong approaches in resolving this. Let's go with nature. It's somebody's plan to upset you. So when you're upset, you lose reasoning, you lose your creativity, you lose your abilities. If it's somebody's plan to do that, what do you do to disappoint the person? To be upset by them, to lose yourself, to allow you to be used, misused, abused, and reduced by them? Or must you tap into the resilience of your ancestors in your genes? We'll discuss that.
Thank you so very much. There is a question here, and it is one that has to do with, here's what it says. It says, how does the indigenous fit in with modernity? How does the indigenous fit in with modernity?
Today, when we talk about modernity, we're talking of the state that we are in now. So let's analyze what modernity has brought us. It's brought us great inventions, technology, making it possible for us to communicate now. It's also brought us global warming, pollution, disease. Our resilience is lowered. So something like COVID-19 is ravaging and we have no support for ourselves. So we realize that something is missing in modernity. The indigenous is about nature. Is it not possible we can learn to start listening to nature so we know nature's intention for what is happening? In so doing, we blend in the spirituality, the knowledge system of the indigenous, so that whilst we're developing technology, we'll be developing them in harmony with nature. Because we will know that, like I shared earlier, you, being part of the self of nature, everything you're doing, you're asking yourself, in what way will it satisfy me? Today, money values have taken over human values. And human values have taken over spiritual values, and the soul is lost. If it will give you money, you don't care how much forest you destroy. You don't care how much you dig gold, diamond, platinum, uranium from the ground. It doesn't matter how much you destroy. But when we go with nature, we will be asking ourselves, in what way do we develop in ways that make nature develops as well? We're never asking that question. It's been a one-sided development. And that's what the indigenous brings to modernity. In other words, modernity rather will have to go back and learn from the indigenous.
Thank you for learning from the indigenous. That is tremendous. There's a question here that is about ancestors. It is about ancestors. And the questioner asks, is it safe to call on and enlist all of our ancestors for guidance? And the all is in caps. Is it safe to call on and enlist all of our ancestors for guidance?
So let me give brief of the wisdom of ancestors. Ancestors speak of the past. Today, in modern psychology and on the lips of motivators, they often teach that forget the past, it is gone. Don't think of the future, it is not here. Focus only on the present and everything will be all right with you. While this sounds semantically true, when it comes to nature, it is never true. Memory is the principal thing. And without memory, everything is being done for the first time. Without memory, you will not even know how to speak the language you are speaking or use the gadgets you are using. Memory speaks of your ancestors. Memory is speaking of the past knowledge system. So your ancestors speak of your spiritual energy system or knowledge system, without which you cannot exist anyway. Only that you are not conscious of their presence in you. Evocation of ancestors is the evocation of their knowledge system, their spiritual energy system already embedded in you. It's the treasures that you already have, but you are not able to access and use it. You don't have it unless you are conscious of it. Meaning, if you have $1 million check in your pocket and you don't know it's $1 million check, you don't have it. So evoking your ancestors, all of them, to support you, advise you, counsel you, is the right thing to do every day. They are with you every moment. So evocation is simply giving attention and focus to a frequency. When you tune your radio or station or your television to a station, you are tuning to a frequency. Evoking your ancestors is tuning your consciousness to the frequency of their knowledge system, tapping into their unfulfilled God dreams so that it fulfills through you, and expanding their fulfilled God dreams. Everything we are doing in science and technology is based on those who have done it before us. So life is a continuum, and our ancestors are forever there with us, even in our technology and inventions.
Thank you so very much. Now, the next question has to do with COVID-19. And the questioner asks one part, but I would want to invite you to speak maybe even beyond the question to COVID-19 and how spiritual consciousness can respond to the pandemic that is affecting us all throughout the whole world. But here's the question. The questioner asks, is COVID-19 a spiritual disease? Is COVID-19 a spiritual disease? But I would like to invite you to address that, but also to speak about COVID-19, maybe more broadly and generally.
Thank you very much. From African theology, everything basically is spirit. And now, science confirms that matter is not matter, it's hollow. The atom is hollow. It breaks down to its nucleus and so on. It's basically hollow. And if you were to allow the fan blade to spin at a speed of 186,000 miles per second, you're going to have it as just light or energy. So everything originally, therefore, is spirit. I recall at the beginning of COVID, I did a program called Cosmic Courage and shared that. We are praying, many people are praying for COVID to leave us, and they say whatever is of life and can never be destroyed. Once it has emerged, it can never be destroyed. But we can have a relationship with it so that it does not become dangerous or ravagous as it has been. What is the primary concern of COVID? Death. And I find it very interesting that in all of our technology, we are very much afraid of dying. Question: how many of you have ever missed your womb placenta life since you were born? In the womb placenta life, you had only one assignment: to develop your human organs for the human life. You died to the womb placenta life and you were born to the human life. And you are engaged so much with the human life that you have never bothered about your womb placenta life. You've never missed it, nor even thought of it. When you exit this body, are you going to miss anything? I'm saying this first for you to know that the fear of death alone is killing many people than COVID. The fear of COVID killing people is killing many more people than COVID itself. So we need to know that COVID is also part of nature. The evil you bless loses its power to harm. But when you curse an evil, it will want to build and rebuild its energy to fight you because you are fighting it. So at the beginning of COVID, I created what I call the blessing of COVID-19. You will find it on my Facebook page if you go to Ethereum Mission handle or Ishprotete handle, the blessing of COVID-19. But we bless it. Whatever is in life is of life. If it is of life and it has forgotten its purpose, bless COVID-19 to evolve its highest evolutionary purpose. Because everything in life is bound to work towards the evolution of life. So must COVID-19. So at the core, yes, everything is spiritual. So I would say it is spiritual. But not spiritual in the sense of some evil entity creating it, but as part of nature. It is also part of nature. And as part of nature, today science has proven that positive words affect even the growth of plants. So what about positive words over COVID-19? You see, I will rather die of COVID-19 than to live in fear of it. I repeat, I will rather die of COVID-19 than to live in fear of it. So moment by moment, I choose to live and to live fully, live magnificently, live consciously, participate in my life by participating in my thinking, in my feeling, in my action, and asking myself moment by moment, what is the great impact that I am here on the planet for? So before we worry about COVID-19 or dying, before you worry about dying, first worry about why was I born? This is where the African will come in to say, what is your purpose? So the African will say that if your purpose is not in alignment with COVID-19, you will not contract it. But others may contract it not because their purpose is in alignment with COVID-19, but because they have lost touch with their purpose. So this is the time we must concentrate more on our purpose. This is the time we must ask ourselves, what's the great impact I'm here to do and be? Because that's my mission. I'm thinking more of the greatest good I can be tomorrow. So there's no space in my consciousness for COVID. This is what you must do. And then, what legacy am I leaving behind? Consider that. COVID is coming to tell us that we have to go beyond the material and seek anchorage in spirit. Seek anchorage in right relationship, like the African does, where everybody is your brother, your sister. We are one another's neighbor. So this is the way we have to approach COVID. It is not an enemy. We must treat it as part of nature and therefore bless it to respond to its evolutionary good. And if it has missed its spiritual dimension, our collective force of blessing it to be in alignment with its spiritual drive will heal COVID-19. We have had SARS, we have had influenza in the past. They are not gone, but we have developed our spirituality and immunity to a degree that they are not able to affect us like they did some time past. Similarly, we shall evolve beyond this one too. You know, when you search into the human body developed sickling cell type of blood cells to outwit malaria, meaning that there is something in the human psyche. In alignment with nature, it will develop its own antidote to COVID-19. But for now, the best of immunity is to live your positive life. There's so much fear of COVID. We're not talking about what to do to live in immunity. If you also observe, we heard that when COVID strikes Africa, we are going to die like houseflies. Yes, there have been deaths in Africa, but not like houseflies, because the goddess of Africa is arisen. She will protect her own. And in Western places, where sometimes you are over-sanitized, you have also lost your immunity. So that's why in a very clean country like Italy, many are falling 100 times more than in Africa together. That is telling us that there's something wrong with technology and even with cleanliness. Sometimes you need to allow nature to build its own body that you are. But we have not allowed nature to work with us. The result is that many are dying who may not need to die. I believe this supports this person.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There is a question here that goes to your book, Essential Life Education. Here's the question. Sydney Collins asks, in your book, Essential Life Education, you write, quote, there are some things that you just know are achievable due to the peculiarities of the male or the female. How many men do you see in the nursing profession? Male pilots outnumber female pilots, unquote. Might there be more women pilots and more male nurses if one's environment or society supports that exploration? Are men not caring and women not brave, smart, and responsible enough to fly planes? Consider the psychological tenet of nature versus nurture. How do you respond to that?
Beautiful. I love this question. In that book, I'm simply sharing that this is our natural propensities. This is how nature creates, that our psychology is in our biology. When you observe the male genitalia and its functioning, especially when it is aroused, and the female genitalia and its functioning when it's aroused, you will see the specific character of men and women. The natural propensities. You can nurture any of these propensities by giving them attention, by first recognizing them and giving them attention. But our nature is so strong that we need to give that attention first. So if you watch the male genitalia in arousal is just straightforward, rod-like organ. And if you observe, that's how men also think. Straight-like, and then women are deep and circular, and that's how women are. They are very circular. So in a conversation, women may be going round while men are just hitting conclusions. And you can hit conclusion 1,000 times, they could all be wrong. And you can also keep going round and all could be wrong. It's not speaking about right or wrong or ability or inability, but it's saying that these are the natural propensities of the female energy, and the female and the male energies are in each one of us. So a woman who is focused on her male propensities may also be given the opportunity to fly or be in the war front. How many women do you see in the battlefield at the war front? Because their natural propensities are not towards that. However, they can give attention to their male conditions or qualities, and they can nurture them. They can nurture them to enable them be at the war front. Again, when you come to understand the male-female energies, the same way that a man and a woman enter into sexual congress, they copulate, and then a child is born, or they create a child, when you are able to awaken your male properties and blend them with the female properties, your mind tunes into huge creativity. And this is a huge secret. So, for example, when you want to resolve the problem as a man, you may ask you, what will a woman's solution be in this situation? And if you've gone through the book he led and identify your female properties, you will do what we call emotional transposition, where you start feeling you in a female system with those female properties. So your female properties rise, they blend with your male properties, and you'll find solutions now downloading. Nobody has power or ability. Potential, it belongs to the universe. Nobody has potential. But when you know the secrets of nature, you will know that by stimulating my male properties and blending with the female properties, I connect with the creative frequency of nature, and creative ideas start downloading through me. So this is where you start applying those principles to yourself. So it's not about women naturally maybe cannot be pilots or men cannot be caring. We all have the caring nature. We all have the nursing nature, but it's more predominant in women because they have womb. So when we say a woman, womb man, they are men plus wombs. They nurture. So the nurturing spirit is very much the second nature of a woman. So it's easier for a woman to nurture the nurturing spirit than a man. But there are men who also have that spirit. So there could be men who have even more of female qualities than even males. We have seen that among people, and vice versa. The result is the opposite is true, where they find women who have more of masculine properties or masculine psychological properties than feminine psychological properties. This is a whole subject that needs study. So in that statement, I'm not generalizing that women therefore cannot be pilots. And again, yes, the environment also contributes. But if you observe whether the environment contributes or not, these are the natural propensities. The environment did not contribute to the creation of the male genitalia or the female genitalia. And these teach us, when you put on nature's spectacles, you read through and realize that, oh, the same way that we are in our genitalia, that's the way we are psychologically. During sexual congress, for example, the natural position for the male is to be on top, and the natural position is for the woman to be underneath. You observe and you can read what nature's original intentions are. Men have need to be leaders, to be on top. Women have need to manage the leaders. That's how we complement. That doesn't mean women cannot lead. There could be women who have more of even the leadership properties than the management properties. In the book, I've given a list of some of these properties as a beginning guide on which you can also put on the spectacles of nature and read humanity from the eyes of nature. We are beings of nature. You eat nature. Your body is nature. You breathe nature. We are primarily nature. Nature commands you to eat. We call it hunger. You eat. It commands you to drink. We call it thirst. You drink. When nature calls, you have to rush to the bathroom, else you mess up. So we are beings of nature. So if we want to understand our evolution in the nature of our human society, we have to go back to nature, put on nature's spectacles. Then we shall know how we are nature constituted as male-female beings. And we can now easily also find in me, I know my female qualities. So when I'm doing something creative, I know what feminine qualities to evoke so that I become more creative. And that's what the book is teaching you.
Thank you so much. Now there's a question here about getting in touch with our purpose. And this question asks, in getting in touch with our purpose, what are some tools we can use for inner clarification?
Thank you very much.
What are some tools we can use for inner clarification?
Let me propose two tools immediately. The first you find in the book is the Essential Life Education that somebody just asked. Because in that book, it guides you if you want to be very precise and know it 100% without miss, it will help you to know how you are constituted in your gender, what we call the forces of being. How you are constituted in your gender, your persona, your senses. Then you can ask your person, your spiritual person. When you know you are a caring person, you observe all the times you've been caring and ask yourself, through all these caring, what am I truly deeply seeking to do and be? Always two things, something to do and be. What you want to do is the mission. What you want to be is the vision of your life. So, and these prompts, some of them are right in the book or in the workbook to guide you to it. So you have to find how you are life constituted. Now, when you know that you have known your genetic coding, you know your life coding, you know how life has coded you, why must you live? You know so much about physics, chemistry, biology, and arts, and science, and your mobile phone, and you know so little about yourself, how you are genetically, how you are life coded. So the book essentially is helping you to find how you are life coded. Then you can prompt your spiritual persona qualities to find out what they are seeking to do or be as your life. Another simpler one that you may even start with is to go with what we call the ultimate purpose of life. The ultimate purpose of your life. You may use that, and then eventually yours will start intuiting itself through softly to you. This is the ultimate purpose of life, as you will see in nature. A grain of corn in the ground becomes a maize plantation to feed life and nourish life. Everything in life is about evolving itself to promote something in life. Check it. Everything in nature is about evolving itself to promote something in life. Now, what makes you happy? When I've asked this question, what makes you happy? People always get confused. But check your life. If I were to do something good and beautiful for you, you will be happy. That is scenario one. If you were to do something good and beautiful for somebody, you'll be happy. When you ask or you check your soul, what gives you lasting happiness is when you do something good and beautiful for somebody, more than what somebody did for you, what good somebody did for you. Straight away, you are seeing the anatomy, that what fulfills us is the good we do. When we evolve to impact life, that is what fulfills us. So the ultimate purpose, therefore, summarizes itself this way, that you are a unit of life, here to evolve, be in service for the promotion of life. You are a unit of life, here to evolve, be in service for the promotion of life. So the key words are evolve, service, promotion. So use that. I'm here to evolve, be in service for the promotion of life. I'm here to evolve, be in service for the promotion of life. Listen to you and feel what you are seeking to expand as. And when you start practicing just this purpose, here to evolve, in what good do I feel I am today? In what way can the good I am serve life? Bring positive impact to somebody's life for the promotion of life. To the degree that your life promotes life, life promotes you. Because when you position yourself as an instrument to promote life, you are telling life, which is God, which is nature, to do its promotion works through you. And your consciousness is enlarged. So go with the ultimate purpose, which we have defined here in the Ethereum mission. And the ultimate purpose is you are here as a unit of life. Unit of life means you have not been created and put here. You are part of life. You are a unit of life, here to evolve, be in service for the promotion of life. So write it, start practicing the ultimate purpose, and as you carry on, yours will start defining itself slowly and gently. Your unique purpose will show in the ultimate purpose. I trust this helps this person.
Yes, thank you so much. So here a question that asks, how would you suggest that disenfranchised African American descendants of enslaved people begin to reconnect with our African indigeneity?
Beautiful. Thank you for that question. I appreciate it. So today there are so many diaspora communities that are connecting with Africa physically. And that is a good thing. So this person can join any of these diaspora communities. Recently, we had a very big event, Year of Return in Ghana, with hundreds of thousands of diasporan friends and families reconnecting to Africa. While this is noble, it's very sweet that right where you are, you connect to the spirit and the soul of Africa through your culture. I came up with a book called The Inspired African Mystical Gospel that anyone can use to understand the cultural practices of your ancestors. Because it is the culture that unites us. We may be on different lands, but wherever we are, once we are practicing our culture, we are connected to the soul of the culture, which is your people. So you may probably not even need to leave America or leave Germany and come and relocate domicile in Ghana or in African country, but you are truly African by your identity. As I shared in the lecture, destroy the culture of a people and you destroy their sense of identity. Destroy their sense of identity and you destroy their creativity and their sense of being. One of the primary problems of African Americans or blacks, African people of African origin in other countries is that they have disconnected from their culture. One of the systemic plans was for you to be disconnected from your culture. So you don't have what unites you. Culture unites you, gives you a sense of being, gives you a global macro sense of being. And now that that has been taken away from you, it's like each person is on his or her own. So I'll say, return to your culture, and what I have that I know can support you is in that book, the I Am Gospel, for short, I Am Gospel for short, or the Inspired African Mystical Gospel. And what I've done in that book is to take our cultural practices, break it down to contemporary language so you understand why it is done that way, so that you can practice them more with consciousness. I've also known of some maybe rituals of some shrines and so on being brought to the Western worlds and so on. These are not cultural, they are the shrine works. So it's like going to a church or a particular cult or whatever, but the culture of the people itself is a synthesis of their belief system over thousands of years. It holds their knowledge base over thousands of years. And almost all of the cultural practices of Africa are programs that are in harmony with nature. So that's what I will encourage you to start with.
So thank you very much. I guess this question you've already kind of began to answer it. It's a very direct one about your books and your publications. Here's the question. For someone who is new to you and the teachings you share, which book of yours should they start reading and why?
Okay. In fact, when people ask this question, I ask them, what is your spiritual or religious inclination? For example, somebody of Christian background, I would say, start with Mission of Jesus Revealed, so that you know the difference between religiosity and spirituality. Because today's Christianity is totally divorced from Jesus. So it's just the churchianity. It has nothing to do with the spirituality of Yeshua, the Son of Joseph and Mary. Because Yeshua came with 3 objectives, which we have totally missed. So if you are from Christian background or religious background or even Islamic background, I'll say mission of Jesus revealed. Because in understanding it, it will give you the tools to understand your religion. But basically then, if I could speak generally, I'll say the way forward, essential life education. If you can start with these 2. The way forward. I was going on a retreat. I had a retreat place in the forest where I go and sit and just commune with nature. And on the journey, I was going to actually edit a book called Life Issues, Spiritual Insights and Solutions. It is still not printed. That was in 2002 or so, or 2003. And I was responding to my team saying they want a book that is very simple for people to understand my essence. So I was going to edit that book. On the way, I opened the radio. I'm not a radio person, but I opened, and there was a conversation in which the host made a statement that everybody needs to be understood. Because when we are understood, we feel heard and receiving the needed attention. Instantly, Spirit spoke to me and said, that's one of the problems of humanity. We are not created by nature to be understood. Nature did not create anybody to be understood. Needing to be understood, you will not be authentic. You will not be yourself. Wow. You will always be trying to change yourself to suit and fit into other people's perceptions. And you'll be lost. The statement was so powerful, I started to park my car to write so that I will not forget. And by the time I realized, I think I have sat in for almost 4 hours or more writing. It was just pouring. And I wrote and wrote and wrote. So when I went to the retreat, instead of editing the book, nature was speaking these 18 principles through me. And I was just writing and writing and writing. That's how the book came into being. The way forward. Nature's practices and principles for empowered living. Imagine the teaching telling you that you don't have to be understood. Everybody needs to be understood. Bible tells you with all of your getting, get understanding. So not only are we seeking understanding, we are seeking to be understood. And it doesn't work. You are a gift of life. You are a mystery. You are a magic of nature that is being unwrapped. Moment by moment, a new you is evolving. Sometimes you surprise your own self, meaning you don't know and understand yourself. How do you hope somebody else will know and understand you fully? Understanding is a gift in a moment, but do not expect to be understood. It's okay if you understand somebody for a moment, but the understanding you even have for somebody in a moment does not mean that's what the person will be in the next moment. Life is a magic and a mystery. You are like a flower that is opening up, a gift that is being unwrapped. And if somebody doesn't understand you, it's okay. It means you are so mysterious, so they are not able to catch up with you. And that is okay. That's only one of the principles, principle 3. And there are 18 of such principles that bring you in harmony with nature. So basically, nature didn't create you to be understood. So that book, The Way Forward. And the next book will be Essential Life Education, which I've explained. It gives you, Essential Life Education enables you to know how your life constituted. It makes you know why you and others are the way you are and you do the things you do. So that you can cooperate. When you now know how you operate and how the other person operates, now you can cooperate. And that is the foundation for peace in the world. I trust this helps the person.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. The next question, and there are so many questions, we are definitely not going to be able to get to all of them, but the next question that has been upvoted is this. The only thing that needs to be healed is our sense of separation. as spiritual beings, what is our task to achieve this collectively?
Thank you very much. I believe the person who asked this question might have either read my book, Essential Life Education, or might have downloaded the Peace Manual from the website wellpeacenourlifetime.org. Because in my peace movement, I want to go with nature to trace the fundamental causes of the problem and not the superficial. You know, when there is any pandemic, there are always three types of interventions. In one intervention, you want to give the person medicine. In a secondary intervention, you want to give the person education, what to do, like COVID, don't do this or do that, so that you do not contract it. But the primary intervention is to identify the person. Why is the person doing what? So that when the person receives that foundation, the person can easily navigate through the pandemic. And we have to apply the same thing to our life. The fundamental causes of conflict is our senses of sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. The senses see separation and scarcity. So with scarcity, we want to hoard and hoard and hoard. We want to take more than enough and leave our brothers and sisters with less than enough. And all these cause the confusions and conflicts we go through. And the next is that the sense of separation sees differences. You cannot tell the senses that tomato and pepper are the same just because they are red. Sense of separation will tell you this is long and this is round, and so on. And they taste different, they smell different, and so on. So the senses see separation. So when I speak about racism tomorrow, for example, we'll trace the foundation of it from the senses. The senses even promote sibling rivalry. So when you talk of patriotism, patriotism is the senior brother or senior sister of selfishness. Selfishness, family togetherness, patriotism are just the same. It starts with I, me, my, mine, myself. 5. I, me, my, mine, myself. Then it grows to I, me, my family. I, me, my clan. I, me, my tribe. I, me, my race. I, me, my nation, and so on. So we find the fundamental cause as the sense of separation. What we do as humanity, first is the advocacy. Because we are using wrong methods to solve human problems. We have to go to nature. And when we come to know that the problem is more fundamental, it's easy to school the senses, to see oneness instead of separation. It wouldn't make sense to tell anyone that the red color and the yellow color are the same. When light breaks through the prism, we see the spectrum of all the colors, including yellow, the red, the blue. Their source, therefore, is the same. So science and spirit agrees that the yellow color and the blue color are all part of the same white light, and you cannot separate one from the other. Once we come to this awareness, our language will even change, where we see ourselves different from one another. So I'm better than you. Better than you is a lie. No one can be better than one another. We can only be better with one another when we all don't have the same start point and the same ending point. How can we be better than one another? But when you, the guitarist, you earn $50,000 a year, and the singer earns $80,000 a year. But when the two of you come together and blend, now you are earning $1 million a year. You have become better with one another. And all of you deserve to share what you have equally. So we can only be better with one another and never better than one another. So these are some of the fundamental things of nature, that nature didn't plan anything to be better than. Else, it would give all of us the same start point and the same end point. Excellence is not when you beat me in the race. Excellence is when You performed than your previous best. You excelled your previous best. So the first, as humanity, is advocacy, to discover that this is the problem. And in the book, the Peace Manual, I've explained it. So we will need the support for this advocacy to reach to policy makers, because it can easily be taught in schools, can easily be taught in communities. And world peace then will be possible in our lifetime. Now, lifetime means your lifetime. You can experience peace. There's so much peace now in me in my lifetime. If you will experience the peace I feel in you, collectively, we have created global world peace. I trust this helps this person.
Very much so. Thank you. Thank you yet again. There are issues and concerns that arise from the gender realizations that you've been helping us to think about. The next question here is this: how do extreme feminists balance their masculine energy to have a healthy relationship with the opposite sex? How do extreme feminists balance their masculine energy to have a healthy relationship with the opposite sex?
I believe the question is very easy. If they are extreme, they must stop being extreme. They must stop being extreme. But I understand, it's been a man's world for so long that when feminists woke up to the truth that they are also essential to life, the drive is to go to the extreme end. And that also will not work. Life works with complementary forces, not one superior to the other. So now the extremists, since Beijing meeting to give some women some rights, now want to also show forth that now I can do it like man, I can do it like a man. You see, if women become like men, the world will be destroyed. Because the real power lies with women. So they mustn't reduce their power to become like men. It has been a man's world for so long, and religion is one of the great problems that disenfranchised women from their power. Even in Hebrew texts, initially when they go to the synagogue to pray, they pray saying, "Thank you, God, you didn't create me an animal, you didn't create me a woman." So women were that marginalized. Bible telling you, let the women keep silent in the churches, for it's not permitted unto them to speak. If they have to ask any question, let them ask their husbands at home. All these and many more have really put women on the sidelines. So in waking up, it's like fighting. You see, the story of David and Goliath tells us that David must use David's natural techniques and not Goliath techniques. Women now want to use male techniques to overcome men. It won't work. It will never work. The feminine power has not been touched. So they are now leaving their feminine power and stepping into male power, and they're calling that extremists. I have a saying that women are for the kitchen. And I repeat, women are for the kitchen. But when we have the spiritual understanding of what that means, we will respect and bow to women. Every home has a kitchen. Kitchen symbolizes source of nourishment. So women are the source of nourishment for community. In Africa, if you will remember, when there's any problem, we say, we are going to ask the old woman. Because we know that they are the source and the reservoir of knowledge, wisdom, experience. So we go to them. Every man and woman, we all came from the womb of a woman. I am known internationally, respected everywhere, but with all of my greatness, I came from the womb of a woman. So what I can do, yes, women can do, probably not in the same way, but in much better ways. So there are ways for women to tap into their power than going to the extremist way. What they are doing is not extremist. They are just how do you call it, second image. They are negating their feminine abilities and capabilities for a bit of masculine ability and capability. It won't work. Let's go with nature. I want to tell you, women, you have more power. And one of my missions is women empowerment. And there will be a book coming out soon to give you some guidelines on how to tap into your power. Let me share this for mothers. If you have children and they are not respectful to you, don't fight them too much. In you lies the power. Every mother who has a child, test this for yourself. There was a time you felt so much love for that son and daughter, sometimes you even cried. It usually happens from birth to the 3rd year, usually. If you can bring yourself to those moments when you felt that love for that child, you will notice a portion of your body pulsating or some high sensation. That is the spiritual home of your child. Every child you have given birth to has a spiritual home in you. If you can find that spot and your child is misbehaving, locate you in that spot and speak to the child as though the idea is the child's idea already. And the child will listen to you. Speak to your children in your children's spiritual home. How many women know this? Come to Africa so you learn this secret. Without a doubt, test it for yourself and write to me that when I tested, I found the spiritual home of my children. Each child has a different location. Sometimes it may seem 2 children are in the same location, but you feel them in different energy spaces in the same spot. So these are some things women need to learn so they can tap into their power. Then they can handle us, the men. So women, you are to manage us. And let me finally end with this. If women, every woman will raise their sons to respect another woman, we shall have world peace faster than imagined. If every woman will raise their sons to respect another woman, we shall have world peace faster than we have imagined. Women, as nurturing beings, when they feel love from their husbands, when they have sons, they raise them as gods. So when they grow up as gods, as landlords, they want women to bully. They want messengers. And that's the root cause of men sometimes bullying their women or treating them less than. If every woman raise their sons to respect another woman, we shall have world peace faster than we have imagined. I trust this helps.
Thank you very, very much. I think that we have time for one question, or possibly 2, but let me pose this one question here. It takes us to the connection with ancestors. It says, what is the best way to connect with ancestors if you are new to doing so? What is the best way to connect with ancestors if you are new to doing so?
This is not a question I can share in just a minute or 2. But I'll say, if you have ancestors in your family. Now, in African theology, let's get this straight. It's not everybody who qualifies as an ancestor. You should have lived a noble life worthy of emulation. So people actually live lives as one of their great treasures they want to leave behind, so that they will be regarded as ancestors. So if you have some people in your family who have passed on, and you know what they love or enjoy, you can just set up your altar with their picture. If they love flowers, put a flower there. If they love rice, put some rice stew there, rice and stew there, or whatever they love every day. Anything you know they love, put it there. And that creates a sense of communion or communication between you and them. During the program, I gave an evocation. If you play it back, maybe you can even use this very evocation and start summoning them. So speak to them as though you are speaking to them as friends right in front of you. It starts simply that way. And Sometimes when you are speaking to them, you can be still and listen to what they are also saying to you. Slowly, you will develop rapport between you and the unseen world. But in my book, Inspired African Mystical Gospel, there are so many guidelines of what you can do to start connecting with ancestors, all to the point of how you can even start hearing them more clearly. I trust that helps.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All too soon, we are having to come to the point where we draw a curtain on this particular lecture and this particular event. How can we thank you enough, Brother Ishmael, for I know that it is almost 1 a.m. where you are. 8 p.m. here, it's 1 a.m. for you, and yet you have remained with us, and you have brought us so much food for thought, so much education for life, so much of a sense of our heritage and connecting with our ancestors and moving into the world in ways that relate well with one another, and that builds us up. So we want to thank you for this evening, and